Hey guys, in today's video, the Gladiator is finally getting its lift. If you're new here, welcome to the channel and don't forget to subscribe down there. The real question is, will I be able to get Mrs. Venture to help me out on this? Go ahead and leave your votes down in the comment section below. What say you, Mrs. Venture? You're gonna help me? I highly doubt that, guys, but go ahead and leave your votes down below. In case you couldn't tell, she's extremely uncomfortable being on camera. That's why I try to sneak her in every once in a while. So it's been probably about a year now. I ordered a lift for the Gladiator here. It is just a 2-inch block lift. I have a lot of reasons for why I went ahead and went with the one that I did. But either way it goes, I'm so excited to finally be putting the lift on the Gladiator. Let's go ahead and look at the lift and see what's all in the box. So the lift I decided to go with is made by American Expedition Vehicles. I actually ordered this lift from extremeterrain.com. If you're interested in it, I'll go ahead and put a few links down in the description below. Now this AEV lift kit is a 2-inch spacer lift, as well as I got some geometry correction brackets to help along with things in the front end. The reason why I went with a spacer lift is I might want to upgrade down the road to even taller after my warranty is up. And this was a nice inexpensive option, but also not too cheap that it's not a quality product that I'm going to really enjoy. Now let's go ahead and see what's in the box for the lift. Should I start using a chainsaw to open my boxes like Bikes and Beards does? Or should I leave it to them? You might say that I'm overcompensating for something with this knife, but if I'm being honest, this isn't my biggest knife. Now, first off, looking at everything in the box, it's clear that they did not forget the important details that make a good part, any part that you buy for your Jeep. They did not forget the stickers. I don't care what kind of product I'm getting. If it comes with stickers, it automatically jumps up a million points in my book. In the box, they also include a calibration tool. So that way, if you lift your vehicle, you put bigger tires on it, you can recalibrate your speedometer using this tool. See, we got some pucks here, 1 and 2. I don't know if they're front or rear yet. We've got some sway bar end links. We got another set of pucks here. I assume these are for the front because these ones are so much bigger. Got some nice solid bracketry. New solid taller bump stops for the rear end. Couple of little bushings. 4 brackets to reposition your shocks. We've got our 2 front end sway bar links. I assume these are for the front bump stops, as well as quite a bit of hardware. All right, and that is what comes in the box for the lift. Now let's see what's in the box for the geometry correction brackets. Now everything you see here is what comes in the box for the geometry correction brackets. You've got the brackets themselves, as well as some hardware, and of course, more stickers. All right, let's go ahead and get started on the rear end. As always, one of the first and most important steps, do not forget the wheel chocks. Next up, we want to jack up the rear of the truck and put the frame on jack stands. We want it up high enough that we're able to lower the axle as far as it needs to go to relieve all of the pressure on the springs, as well as have a little bit of space above the springs. That way, when we put our spacers in, we have plenty of room. Now that we're up in the air, we need to remove our tires. All right, so next up, looking underneath the Jeep here, we want to loosen all of our control arm bolts. You should have 8, 4 on either side, but we do not want to completely remove them. We just want to loosen them. That way we can have as much movement as possible. As well as our track bar bolt, we want to loosen up our track bar bolts. There should be 2 of them in total, 1 on the driver's side and 1 on the passenger side. But once again, just loosen, do not remove. The next thing we're going to do right here, we want to remove this ABS sensor from this little bracket and just kind of tuck it out of the way. This will allow more movement of the axle. We don't want to accidentally stretch this out too much that we break it when we're dropping our axle. Once that's removed, you want to go ahead and remove your lower shock bolt, but go ahead and hang on to the hardware. Next thing we want to do is remove our sway bar end links from either side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start lowering the axle down. We want to make sure that nothing is hanging up, nothing is catching, we're not breaking any electrical. But we want to be able to lower this down far enough that we can get all the tension removed off of the springs and get our spacers up in there. With the axle lowered, you should just be able to remove your spring, lift up on it, be able to clear, and come straight down. Now that the spring is removed, we're going to go ahead and remove this upper part. We are not going to be reusing this. And we are going to replace it with this block. Now you want to make sure that the top of this spring here is locked in place where it sits in this block here. So you can kind of just set it on. So you can just kind of set it on and twist it into place. And that's where it's going to sit, just like that. You want to make sure that it sits up against here. You can also do that once you get your spring in place, twist it where it needs to be. The top of this block here has this tab sticking up. There is a hole up where this sits. You want to make sure that that tab is lined up and goes up through that hole. Let's see if I can do all this without knocking my camera over. Now that our spring is in place, we want to open up these factory holes just a little bit. According to the instructions on their website, you want to open them up to 13/32 of an inch. I went ahead and bought a brand new bit so I didn't run into any issues. Next, you want to take this new bump stop. You want to make sure that the bigger side is towards the rear of the vehicle. Once it's in place, you want to use their countersunk bolts as well as a couple of flange nuts, and then use these to install the new bump stop. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten these down. It does not give a torque spec for these. It just says to tighten them down until a slight deformation on the bump stop appears. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our shock extension bracket and we are going to go ahead and set this in and line it up using the factory hardware. You can see it's all lined up right here. What we're going to do is we're going to set this up, and then we're going to use that same 13/32 drill bit, use the hole to help line things up, and we're going to drill this out. And once that's drilled out, we're going to go ahead and install the supplied hardware. And then you want to make sure that you tighten this one down completely, because it's the only bolt that you're not going to be able to get to later when we go ahead and torque everything down. After that bolt's in place, you can go ahead and remove the factory bolt. And then you want to install the supplied bolt along with the supplied spacer and the supplied nut. Now we're going to tighten this up just a little bit, just so that there's enough tension on here that it's not floppy. We'll go ahead and torque this down when we torque our shock down later. Next up, we're going to install the new sway bar end link in the factory orientation using the new hardware that they provide. Once again, we're waiting to torque this down until later. And then of course we can't forget to mount our shock using the factory hardware. Now, in order to reduce vibrations, they give you 3 spacers to install up here at this carrier bearing, as well as new hardware. Now, when I pulled this bolt off, I noticed that there was some red Loctite on it from the factory, so I'm going to go ahead and put some Loctite on the new bolts going in as well. Now, I'm not sure of any specific torque spec for these, so we're just going to go with good and tight. Now all that's left to do in the back is get the wheels back on and set her on the ground. Now that the rear is pretty much done, I'm going to go ahead and jack up the front end and remove the wheels so I can get started on installing the lift in the front end here. Now, with your tires removed, you want to support your axle kind of centered just to the side of the pumpkin here, and I'm using a block so that I can make up this gap right here. I'm just going to place my jack right here just to support the axle right here. I'm going to go ahead and put light pressure on it for now. And that way I can start loosening things up. Ah, I lost you guys. Now next, just like on the rear, we're going to loosen up all 8 of our control arm bolts. Remember, we're just loosening, we are not removing them. Now next thing, we need to remove our lower shock bolt on either side, as well as remove our sway bar end links. Now after that, we're going to go ahead and disconnect this here. This is our brake line bracket. We want to be able to have this loose. And this will be on both sides. And the final thing we need to disconnect is our center axle disconnect here. We want this wire completely loose. Up here, it's already broken for me, so I'll have to fix that later. But right down here, there's another Christmas tree fastener, as well as the plug that is right there. You want to remove all that and leave it hanging. I hate Christmas tree fasteners. And now with all of that removed, we're going to go ahead and slowly lower the entire axle assembly until we have enough space here that the springs are moving freely. Also, make sure you're watching out for whatever is hanging up, because guaranteed this is going to want to hang up over here. There's some electrical components. I need to be wary of my locker wires. Everything that is connected still, we just kind of want to pay attention to. And just like that, that should be enough to get the spring out of its perch. Oh, I don't want to burn any pizzas. Hang on, everybody. Now we want to take our topper here, whatever you want to call it, isolator, and we're going to go ahead and remove that, and we will not be reusing this piece. Now with our spring out, we can go ahead and install our spacer here. Just going to pop it right on up. And just like the rear, there's 2 tabs that need to line up. I just kind of twist it until it's in place. And it should be with the AEV logo sticking out. Now it is going to be loose. We'll adjust that when we put the spring in. Then when you put your spring in, you want to come up, push it up out of the way, and then you have this bump stop extender here. You want to install it up into the spring with the countersunk end up, and we'll just set it right up in like so. And then we can go ahead and put our spring into place, which is a little tight right now. Once your spring is in place, you want to twist it until the spring hits the stop on this other side here, just like in the rear, only this one's on the bottom. Once that's completed, you're going to take this Allen head bolt here with a washer and go ahead and drop it down in that hole, and it should line up with the hole in the axle. And then you want to tighten it down with this nut here on the back side. It's kind of a tight fit getting underneath on the other side, so I had to remove the brackets on the back. Next, we're going to go ahead and install our shock extension brackets. You want your bracket, which I just tried to install backwards. Let's try that again. Just like the rear, we're going to line our bracket up. We're going to take our hardware, push it up through the bottom into the pre-existing hole, if it'll go, with a nut. And then once again, we're going to take our provided hardware with our spacer, and we're going to leave this loose, but go ahead and tighten down that other bolt. Next up, we need to go ahead and install our sway bar. For the driver's side, they provide a washer to put on before you put on your nut, but only for the driver's side, because the passenger side, there is a bracket on either side. You don't have to worry about that. Now all that's left is to attach the shocks to the extension brackets, reattach everything that we removed to be able to drop the axle, and then put the wheels on and set everything down on solid ground. Now, if you bought the kit without the geometry correction brackets, you are done here and you can torque everything down. I have the geometry correction brackets, so I need to go ahead and install them now before finishing torquing everything. Now, in the instructions for the correction brackets, It does state that it is easier to do with all four wheels on the ground, but it also states very clearly that you want to do one side at a time. So let's go ahead and hop underneath the Jeep and I'll show you what we're working with. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the bolt here that connects the lower control arm to the frame. And then we're also going to remove this bolt here for our upper control arm to the frame. Now on the driver's side, it might be a little difficult. The exhaust might be in the way just a little bit depending on the model. I think we're going to be okay right here. But it did say in the instructions that the bolt might not want to come all the way out because of the exhaust. We're just going to see what happens. But we're going to remove that bolt, the other bolt, and lower our control arms to the ground. Ooh, almost dropped the wrench on my face. Now, unfortunately, as I'm editing this video, I realize that I'm missing footage. So the bracket is going to mount where the upper and lower control arms mounted at the frame. The bracket just pokes up in there and you go ahead and bolt them down. Now that those two bolts are in, we can go ahead and actually torque those down. The bolt through the bracket that was the upper control arm bolt will torque to 80 foot-pounds. And the bolt that goes through the bracket, which was the lower control arm, is going to torque to 190 foot-pounds. I had to go buy a new torque wrench. I gotta take a break.
Are you baby?
A little bit.
Yeah. Why don't you sit down?
I should have bought a 3/4 inch drive torque wrench. It'd have been expensive, but it'd have been well worth it.
You want to come sit down?
Now that that is in and torqued down, we can go ahead and start reinstalling our control arms using the provided hardware. Now for the upper control arms, they do provide these pieces here. These you're going to install on the outside of that geometry correction bracket. The bolt is going to go through one, through the bracket, through the control arm, through the next one, and then you'll put your nut on the other side. These clock a certain way depending on how high of a lift you have. So if you're doing a 2-inch lift, they go one way. If you're doing 4 inches of lift, they go another way. If you're doing 6 inches of lift, they go another way. And all it is just rotating this a certain way. So I'm going to go ahead, hop underneath there, get all that taken care of, and then it's time to start torquing everything else down. So here it is in all its glory. I've been driving around for a couple of days now, and overall, I think it is doing great. Now, hopefully I can find a before picture for you guys. Maybe I'll set them side by side. But either way it goes, I think that it has turned out great. I really like the ride height. It's not too high, but not too low. One thing I have noticed is I feel like my tires seem really small inside the wheel wells, but that's okay. I think it's just because I'm so used to seeing them tucked up into the wheel wells that now it just makes them look small. But overall, so far, really happy with this lift, and I can't wait to take it out on the trail. Hopefully soon I'll be taking it out to Last Chance Canyon and really give it a test. I have had this through Last Chance. I didn't film it that day. It was just more of me taking my boys out for a fun adventure. And this next trip, I am going to film the Gladiator's performance through Last Chance Canyon. I don't know if I'm going to feel up to the V-notch in this thing. I never usually am. All I can think about is how much damage I would cause with one little thing going wrong. So we will cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. As always, don't forget to subscribe down there. You can check me out on TikTok at It's Project Venture, as well as Instagram at It's Project Venture. Thanks for watching.